Right, welcome back and good morning once again. This is a Morning Cafe on TV 47. My name is Fred Ndimuli. Time for us to take a look at the big headlines this morning. And a quick look at the dailies. NAS's No One Wants, that's a big story on the front page of the Daily Nation. Ruto seal grab on the front page of the Standard. IEBC vetting order could trigger crisis. That's the front page of the Star. And we'll be back to take a look at that IEBC crisis. But I want us to focus on Taifa Leo. Naangazia taarifa ya gavana wa Trans Nzoia George Natembeya. Anasema Natembeya akaziwa. Yesterday George Natembeya appeared in court where he was released on cash bail of 500,000 shillings plus he's been barred from office for the next 60 days. This is the first time this is happening. Allow me to welcome my panelists this morning on my immediate right, Nabii Nabwera, MP Lugari constituency. Karibu sana. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
A long time, eh?
Yeah, it's good to have you back in studio after a long time.
Yeah. You know, sometimes you have to take a break.
Karibu sana.
Yeah.
Senator Eddie Okech makes a comeback to Morning Cafe. Karibu sana. Senator Migori County.
Asante sana, my brother.
Yes. And a very familiar face on this panel, Senator Joe Nyoto of Murang'a. Karibu sana, Senator.
Thank you.
Let's start from there. And as far as devolution is concerned, the fact that a governor has been barred from accessing office for 60 days, this is unprecedented. And fine, the fight against corruption is something that is ongoing. But what kind of effect does this have, Bwana Nabii?
Yeah, first of all, I want to declare my interest. You know I'm a product of devolution. For 10 years, I'm a founder member of devolved units for 10 years. I worked with the county government of Kakamega. Now, there are three things that we must put into perspective. The first one is the political context in which this is happening. And then the second one is the functional context of the office of a governor. And the third one, which is very critical, is the public context. Now, the public context here would be that what do they view this to be? Is it persecution? Is it an issue, a political issue? Is it a social issue? Is it affecting service delivery? By and large, what I've seen and the feel I get from Trans Nzoia may even dismiss what this is all about, because to them they look at it as a political persecution, and that kills the whole thing from where it starts. Up to late in the night, I have family in Kiminini. Up to late in the night, there were 4 places that Natembeya arrived in Trans Nzoia and had to go to all those places. And there were thousands of people. Likeke, Kitale Town, Matisi, Kiminini, and Saboti. And those are the hotbeds of politics of Trans Nzoia. Now, in the context of service delivery in the office of the governor, the decision of the court yesterday completely affects service delivery. Of course, this is not the first one. In 2013, 2017, there was such a ruling to a governor, but still he functioned. It affected, and then the second one to be affected was the governor of Migori. Then, who was also barred from his office, even traveling. Of course, it became very difficult. There are issues here. One of them is what is the gazetted place for holding his county executive, what we call county cabinet meeting. If there is a particular designated place, then he's dismantled because he can't then function, okay? But if he left it loose, like my governor then, Oparanyat, left it loose, we could hold a cabinet meeting anywhere, so long as it's within the county. But critically important, remember the office of the governor, the resident office of the governor, is the seat of power. So when you are barred from accessing your seat of power, then there's an issue.
Okay.
Then I go back to my first point, which is the political context in all this. Prior to this, there are three things that had happened in the environment of Governor Natembeya. The first one is that he had come out as what I would call, in quotes, an alternative political view in my region. Okay. Secondly, he's been opposed to the Kenya Kwanza government in terms of what he thinks they are overbearing, and the promises they are making are not getting implemented. Mm-hmm. Thirdly, he has been opposed to the Luya leadership, especially of Honorable the Prime Cabinet Secretary and the Speaker of the Assembly, and that lot, and Governor Paranya. Now, what then that means is that what does the region interpret it to be? The charges here, as I read them and listened to the court, is about corruption. But unfortunately, politics has taken the center stage.
Okay, and before we go to the politics, because I want to understand the legal implications of a governor having to stay away from office for a very long period. Senator Eddie Oketch, you're tasked with defending devolution. If you look at the three cartoons on the Daily Nation, the Star, and I think the People Daily, they're all talking about the fact that government critics are now under siege. George Natembeya, and thank you, Bwana Nabina Bwera, for painting that background, is one of them. He's opposed to the leasing of sugar factories. He's opposed to so many things that this government is doing. There is an element and an understanding, a general view that the fight against corruption is being generally weaponized against critics of this government. Now, when it comes to affecting a county operations directly, do you think that probably even the fight against corruption is crossing the line?
First of all, I must say that there are two lenses in which you can look at the issue of George Natembeya. One is the popular opinion, which is that critics of government are being targeted for those dissenting voices are somehow targeted to be silenced. And it happens that there are governors who have also joined the national political discourse. Natembeya is one of them, but it's not the only one. We've seen a place like Siaya, the county government of Siaya, the governor of Siaya, has been a very serious critic. I think more even of a critique of the national government than any other governor. And even more importantly, he has been even a critique of the broad-based arrangement more than any other governor. And we haven't seen that kind of scathing attacks on him. I wouldn't rank, but I would say that it's in the popular domain that in terms of voices of governors who are very strong against the Kenya Kwanza administration as well as the broad-based arrangement, you would definitely put Orengo anywhere in the top category. And Governor Orengo probably hasn't seen that kind of scathing attacks. So for you to judge this, you must put it in that context. That who are these claimed voices that are being targeted, and there's that possibility. It is not something that is far-fetched, in the sense that we have seen in this country a number of times that people who are sometimes against government can be targeted, and that one you cannot write off. So that could be one narrative. But the hardest narrative for me is the fact that he's also seen as somebody who was, reigned on by the EACC, administration, or if you may, officers who went to, pick him on issues of corruption. So up until it is variably confirmed so, then as a senator I can't talk, because we've also seen in this country in the past where a number of executive offices have been abused by individuals who then, because they are very popular, sometimes they can be able to mobilize populations around them, end up mobilizing those populations to the extent that the population themselves will say, you call him a thief, but he's our thief. Mm-hmm. He's sharing with us, right? You remember the popular times of Senator Mike Mbuvi Sonko, when the Senate actually itself vindicated a case of corruption and actually impeached him, but even then it didn't sit well with the populace that he was very, very popular with. So there's a very thin balance here that I would say that because it's a matter in court, I would rather wait for the court to pronounce itself on it, and then you can be able to find a grounding reason to protect or to condemn. Because where corruption cases are, as a senator, who oversights executive, whether in national government or in county government, that we must call out very strongly. But we do not want a country where dissenting voices are silenced by whichever way of state instrument.
Okay. Senator Nyoto, of course, we've seen a trend, and a few weeks back, even the Senator for Kiambu was arrested in similar fashion. And it came at a time
Governor
when
of
we've
Kiambu.
seen... Governor of Kiambu,
yes,
sorry.
Yes.
Governor of Kiambu, Kimani Wamatangi, was arrested in similar fashion. And around the same time, there was a lot of talk about how he probably had disagreed with the head of state on a few issues around the trip to Mount Kenya region for the president. It is very difficult not to buy into the idea that this is weaponization of the fight against corruption and the EACC simply being used for that. Do you agree?
Yes, totally, Fred. And one thing that, you judge something by is when there is a particular pattern. I mean, you cannot tell me that only governors who cross the government's line are corrupt. We are yet to see any governor, for example, from the president's region, being subjected to what we have seen Wamatangi and Natembeya subjected to. And one thing that I have an issue with Fred, and which shows clearly that this is political witch hunt, is because the dramatic arrest. I mean, these are county governors. If an order is placed to them to present themselves before EACC, I believe these governors will present themselves to the EACC. So the question then becomes, why do we stage these dramatic arrests of governors? People who have, huge responsibilities, people whose address is known, and people who can be given summons by the DCI, by EACC, and they will present themselves. I was looking at those images yesterday of Governor Natembeya being handcuffed. I mean, this drama, Fred, and I think this government should get embarrassed of itself. How do you handcuff, a governor because there are corruption charges against him? I mean, you handcuff dangerous criminals. So this thing of handcuffing governors, dramatic arrests, going home, we can understand where the detectives go visit governors' homes or anybody's houses to collect evidence, but not to arrest. You just issue a summon against a sitting governor and they'll appear before EACC. They'll appear before DCI. I mean, these are not fugitives. So the other thing is what I'm calling the pattern. I mean, and my colleague Eddie has said, and I was listening to his argument that if it was going to be political harassment because of the way that these governors criticize the government, that Governor Orengo would have been arrested. I want to tell Eddie here, he may not have thought about this, but for Governor Natembeya, the issue is about kingpinship. in the Mulembe nation. President Ruto does not want the Mulembe nation to have a kingpin because, of course, he knows the consequences that will have or the impact it will have on the 2027 elections. He would rather have Wetangula and Musalia remain there because he can and has already been able to manage these two. Mm-hmm. And you know, anybody who has been observing the political landscape in this country can tell you that Natembeya is coming out as a Luhya kingpin and a kingpin who is independent-minded and who may not be compromised. Mm-hmm. And that is where the war is. Now, just to tell Eddie why Orengo and Nyong'o may not be arrested or, subjected to this, because in Luo land, there is already an established kingpin. So Ruto does not feel threatened by Orengo and Nyong'o. Mm-hmm. But Ruto feels very threatened by Governor Natembeya. Right. And that is why Governor Natembeya has to suffer this. Okay. That he
let me just
from Orengo and the Nyong'o.
Doesn't this, the events of the last 2 days, therefore, then lionize Governor Natembeya further in the eyes of the Mulembe nation?
Let me just tell you. 2 days ago, I put up a post, and I said, I am shocked on how naive, and I'm very clear with my words, how naive this government is becoming. You cannot make a blunder after another. And I said, people may say all manner of things about Moi, but he had two impossible characteristics. The ear to listen. The man was an impossible ground listener. Impossible. And that's why he was able to be around for 24 years. Then I said, secondly, he had a way of internalizing intelligence, information as is. He would take it as is. Then say, oh, please, can I, then how do we get out of this? And I said, where we are today, you require a situation room where the head of state and the tools of security can retreat and think through. And I even told them, my years after university, I had an opportunity to work in OP as an intern. And Moi would do a very impossible thing. Have an opportunity to call a chief, a local chief, Abraham Macho in Lumakan, in Mautuma Lugari, speaks to the chief before he goes to meet the cabinet or goes to meet the head of internal security, or before he speaks to Boynet, and give it to Boynet, the best professional NIS Kenya has ever had, Boynet. So he says, Chief, kulikuwa na mafuriko. So Chief explains the mafuriko. Then he says, kuna mambo ingine, watu wanasema nini? The chief tells him as is. So as he reads the report and he has his Oyugi reporting, Moi has an alternative view. He knows that here I'm being cheated. Here I'm not being told the truth. For God's sake, you did not need, if anyone thinks that you can curtail Natembeya by that show off, you have made Natembeya Luhya's like. And I'm speaking as a Luhya. I'm now speaking as a Luhya. Mm-hmm. Luhya's like rebellious people. Look at the history. Luhyas don't go with conformists. That is their nature. Look at Masinde Muliro. Are we together? Mm-hmm. Look at Wamali wa Kijana. Are we together? Mm-hmm. I mean, look at Shukuku. Are we together? Now, by that drama of, Natembeya is, by the way, one thing I've known in this country, a person who has worked as a DO, a DC, remains one. Let me tell you, even that Kashagwa you see. So he knows certain things about government. Actually, if you had just summoned Natembeya, he would appear. Yeah. He understands that government has certain muscle So, but by you dramatizing it, that is, you have handed over. Actually, for me, who come from the Western region, who even had my own issues about the way Natembeya looks at politics, they have handed over the public to him like this.
Yes.
I speak as a lawyer.
All right. And if you look at the front page of Taifa Leo, if my director can help me with that, the image used there of George Natembeya. Sema Natembeya kaziwa, but if you look at the picture, it definitely looks like a lionized individual there, the front page of Taifa Leo. That's a discussion today. What has government done? Government Natembeya, has it lionized him further? Let's take a break. We come back and discuss a lot more. You're watching Morning Coffee.